I think we're finally going to put together a nice little comprehensive prep guide for Witch Queen. The title isn't clickbait, right? Okay. The only prep that really matters at all is bounties, materials, and weapons. There are going to be people who are going to lie to your face and tell you that your armor matters a lot, but it really doesn't. Not more than you would think. I'll get into that later. You can see I have 6 Iron Banner bounties here. You can only grab 4 per Iron Banner event. There's a total of 7 of them in the pool, but like I said, you can only grab 4 unique ones per event, and sometimes there are duplicate ones that are brought event after event. Between now and Witch Queen, you still have about like 3 Iron Banners left to grab all these bounties. The reason why these are important is because they are weekly bounties and they are worth 10,000 XP each. On top of that, if they're going to bring new Iron Banner items, when Witch Queen drops, if you pop these bounties, you can get some of the new items. So ideally, over the next Iron Banners, you finish them, you don't turn them in. And now a lot of people are gonna ask, okay, well, don't bounties expire? Bounties, wait a minute, did they change that? Okay, they do expire if you don't complete them. You can hold 63 total slots on this entire page, so that includes your quests and bounties. They are shared space, so ideally you want to kind of deplete to as minimal amount of quests as you can. So I'll get rid of this small gift. It'll go down to 13. So the less quests you have, the more room you'll have for bounties. Going into bounty specifics themselves, though, the XP values are really, they can be important depending on how much XP you really want to store. I would say just as long as you have the max amount of bounties that you can hold in general in your inventory, you'll be best off. But weeklies are worth 10,000 XP base each. And by base, I mean without any XP boosts that you'll get with the season pass or with your ghost mod on that grants extra XP. 10,000 for weekly bounties, 6,000 for daily bounties like this, and then 3,000 XP base for any repeatable bounties. Any sort of XP that you can store across all 3 of your characters for Witch Queen will be very beneficial for a head start on your season pass, as well as possibly getting new Iron Banner items and things like that. And this can go for any season. If you want to do this on any non-expansion, it always works. It's the same thing time and time again at this point. They haven't changed too much. One thing I forgot to add is that Dreaming City bounties that you will get from Petra will not have the same XP values as normal daily bounties or any of the spider bounties. So usually I avoid those 2 vendors when trying to prep. Another thing to be cautious of is if they are planning to remove any destinations, you're probably not going to want to save any bounties from those destinations. But anything that's not Spider or Petravenge will be good for bounty stockpiling or saving for Witch Queen. Stock up on as many planetary materials as you can from every single planet. Some of these aren't in the game anymore, these planets, but the easiest way you can access these is from Spider. We'll go there in a second. Make sure you have enhancement cores too. Enhancement cores are incredibly important. You get them from, the easiest way to get them in my opinion is to do raids and things that'll drop curated items, aka pre-masterworked items, so you can delete them. When you delete them, you get 7 enhancement cores. There are also things that you can do with your ghost mod that, like, which one is it? Things like this. Not specifically Gambit, but like, do this objective, and it has a chance to award an enhancement core. Things like that would be good if you're really struggling for that, or with enhancement cores. I know a lot of people aren't as stockpiled as they probably should be. I'm going to show you guys how to store glue in your vault today. So it works with these Evolve's Authority ship. So if you go to your collections, you go to equipment, you go to ships, it's under season 3. But if you don't have that, that's okay too. You can still get the other side Sparrow, which is also season 3, by doing Vanguard Strikes in the Vanguard playlist. It's going to cost you 7,500 Glimmer to buy and 5 legendary shards. So when you buy it, you can store as many of these in your vault as you please. When you go to delete it, you're going to get back 5,000 Glimmer and all your legendary shards. So it's going to be a net loss of 2,500 Glimmer. This works with pretty much any Sparrow and any ship in the game, but those 2 options are going to give you your legendary shards back in full. If you are low on planetary materials, the best way to get them is literally just to go to Spider. This inventory refreshes daily, by the way. And he'll have exchanges for different materials, and you want to buy it when it's legendary shards for your material of choice. The Glimmer one is kind of because you can't really do that much with it. So for example, you see Burying Bows here. One legendary shard will buy you 5 Burying Bows. If you're someone who has been not letting your Postmaster overfill and actually deleting things and getting the legendary shards, you should have plenty of legendary shards for material exchange. I would say to at least have like 1,000 of each. That's what I would recommend. But if you're a really hardcore player, you want to future-proof yourself literally for the next 18 years that this game goes on, 10,000 of each material is what I do, usually. So the most important thing of all, I know a lot of people are wondering about this. How do you get legendary shards fast? It's a tough question to answer, dude. Honestly, I think the best way to do it, in my personal opinion, without getting super annoyed / bored, is going into strikes, this on your ghost. Vanguard playlist strikes and Nightfall completions have a chance to drop additional piece of legendary gear. Whether you want to do Nightfalls or you want to mix it up, you'll do that. And Vanguard strikes, doing this when the heavyweight modifier is active, it makes strikes super fun. There's no secret pill that will give you 10,000 legendary shards at the snap of your fingertips. Unfortunately, you'll get legendary shards faster than you'd think. You just have to do a lot of the casual gaming in order to start stockpiling those materials. Really, if you're not planning on keeping a piece of armor, don't upgrade it at all. It really isn't that needed. Only waste or only use your materials for upgrading if you really need to, especially if you're desperate for legendary shards. I know that's a mistake that a lot of newer players make. There used to be a different way to get enhancement cores fast, because I used to be very low on them as well. These 4 bounties on each of your characters every day. It'll be annoying, I know, but that's literally 12 free enhancement cores every single day. It's super free. These bounties are not hard at all. It just requires you to use different weapon types. I'm gonna go over some staple weapons that you might want to have for Witch Queen. I'm not gonna go into everything. I'm gonna make that a separate video because I don't want to sit here and explain weapons for 50 minutes. This is one of the most important and easiest weapons you can get. It's a God Roll. Got Overflow, which is one of the best perks in the primary in the game, and Explosive Payload, which means that it doesn't have damage drop off, with the explosive rounds at least. All you need to do to get it, if you haven't already, you go to the little kiosk here, you go to New Light, you pick up the quest and you start doing it. It's like literally just a few steps in. If you want to stop after you get it, you totally can. It's super simple, go get it. So speaking strictly on the PvE side of things, I'm going to show you guys some of the weapons that I am pretty confident will be good in Witch Queen regardless of how buffs or nerfs go. Again, this is 3 months in advance, so keep that in mind. There will be a separate video explaining like my arsenal of things for future-proofing weapons goes. Literally every single weapon that could be good, will be good, might be awful, as far as Witch Queen buffs or nerfs go. Starting in the primary slot here, just talked about the Night Watch that you get from the New Light quest. You have a couple options as far as SMGs go, but this one is my favorite. It is in the World Loot Pool, the Escape Velocity. I personally like Overflow on my primary weapons because it allows you to have basically like a bottomless mag. It's pretty nuts. When you pick up a special brick, it like increases your mag size by a lot. And then Surrounded to increase the damage when you're surrounded by 3 or more enemies. Arbalest, it is getting a buff in Witch Queen, really good for cracking shields. They've actually really buffed linear fusions recently, so this thing has been performing really well. One of the probably the number one primary that you could have as far as ad clear and passive damage goes for PvE is the Wither Horde. You can put this at choke points on enemy spawn doors. You can stick it to them and it does passive damage while you shoot with other weapons. This thing is insane. The thing that makes it so great though, it's not a make or break necessarily, but is the catalyst. It might be kind of annoying to do now, but I would highly recommend it. The catalyst, when you stow this weapon, it auto reloads it after, I think it's about 3 seconds. I don't know if that's the exact timer, but you'll get kind of a feel for it as you're swapping between weapons. I like to pair it with the Achilles SMG, so I'll shoot a Wither Horde shot at like the door or the floor or at an enemy, and then I'll spray an enemy down with the Achilles SMG. Another one of my top picks, If I'm not using Wither Horde, it's another grenade launcher. It's a legendary. You can get this. You get it from the Season of Splicer Engram. Ideally, the two most important things, in my opinion, to get on this grenade launcher are slide shot and blinding grenades. Blinding grenades are important because it'll blind any enemy that is not considered a boss ultra. And it blinds them for like 5 seconds or something absolutely insane like that. And the reason this is so important is because you pair it with slide shot. Every time you slide, it reloads your weapon. So you don't even have to go through the reload animation at all. You can just slide back and forth, insert like you can literally just slide and spray blinding grenades everywhere. I am actually mind blown that they have not nerfed blinding grenades yet. I've been using it since the Wendigo was a seasonal weapon. Been using it on special grenade launchers since the Truth Teller in, was it Season of Arrivals? One of the biggest things that a lot of players don't know is there's a difference between burst damage and sustained damage. Sustained damage means that you will do a larger damage number over a period of time, and burst damage is doing a lot of damage in a short amount of time, even though it might not be more damage over the long term. This falls into the burst damage category because you can rapid fire spray this thing at any enemy. It's really good paired with Divinity. So you have something like triple tap and extended mag. So I have base 7 mag. If I hit all my headshots, I will get off, is it 10 or 11? But you'll get off a lot of shots in one clip without having to reload. It's 11. I have like a really old video on how you can literally get it from, there are 2 chests that you can get for free without even having to do the raid. Another weapon that is a really big staple, very good hand cannon option. You might have to go out of your way to get it. If you're a newer player, this might be a little bit harder. You get this from the master version of the Vault of Glass. You do it through the Templar challenge. You will get this guaranteed roll as long as you do the challenge. These 2 perks will be random. Explosive Payload Firefly. Again, that explosive payload, making sure there's no damage drop off when you shoot the shot. Firefly causing an explosion when you get a kill that is a headshot. Long Shadow and Succession are prime examples of a sustained damage sniper in the kinetic slot. One is through the world loot pool, the Long Shadow, which is basically any drop, any legendary that you see on the ground, Vanguard, Crucible engrams, you can get it through those. This is from the Deepstone Crypt raid, Succession. The reason why this one is slightly better is because you can roll Vorpal on it, which does increase damage to ultras and vehicles, which you don't really see much in the game. And then Reconstruction. So it'll load itself up to like, I think the limit is an 8 magazine, even while the weapon is stowed. So when you pull it out, you can fire 8 shots. Again, doing sustained damage over a period of time. And it's just really good for ammo conservation and a primary sniper in general. You could choose either of those depending on whatever you prefer. If you don't want to do the raid, you can get the Long Shadow. Aikilos SMG. The best SMG in the game. I'll just put it that way. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're wrong. This thing drops from the world loot pool. The most important thing to have on this, in my personal opinion, is threat detector and surrounded. Any other perks are totally your choice. I like tac mag. Barrel doesn't really matter too much. Surrounded spec to increase the damage granted by surrounded. It's just really good for ad clear. It used to be super good with Warmind cells. You can still run it with that if you want to, but in general, it's just a really good SMG because of its low recoil and easy controllability. Slug shotguns are getting a nerf, but I still think they will be good. We'll have to see how that pans out. This is the best energy slug shotgun in the game, the first and last out. This does drop from the world loot pool. Seeking out rolls in the world loot pool nowadays is a little hard because it's inflated with a lot of different weapons. But the most important thing to have on here is auto loading. So when you stow your weapon for a period of time, it'll automatically reload the whole magazine. You can get Vorpal on it too. You'll get that extra little damage buff to ultras. Nation of Beasts. Energy hand cannon. Outlaw Dragonfly or Outlaw Rampage are the 2 most popular rolls. This one is the curated roll. You get this from the last Wish raid. There's nothing to really say about it. It's just a really solid hand cannon. Summoner. Xur hasn't sold this yet. It used to be a trials weapon that I don't think they're going to bring it back. So Xur does sell this with Overflow. Don't miss your chance. You could get, if he has Rampage here too, literally God roll. I'm still looking for that because you can't get this anymore. So I'm waiting for that day to come around. But as long as you get Overflow, it's a really, really solid auto rifle to have in your inventory. It's always good to have a bow in your arsenal. There's also a kinetic one that you can get from the Garden of Salvation raid. This drops from the first encounter. Bows are just really nice to have in general. They're not useful for everything or super optimal necessarily, But this one drops from the World Loot Pool, the Arsenic Bite, Rampage, and Explosive Head. I like Explosive Head because it's kind of like explosive rounds. But you can also get something like Archer's Tempo if you prefer that. In Witch Queen, there's supposed to be shotgun buffs. Sorry to go out of order here. We've been waiting for shotguns to be good again for a very long time. You can get a few different rolls on the Akilo shotgun, but the OG roll used to have Trench Barrel on it. That's what they nerfed it down to. So this might be something you want to have. It's not guaranteed. You could do this or something like the Xenoclass, which you can get from strikes. Cartesian Coordinate. I've been using this thing this entire season, particularly because of particle deconstruction. Just get Vorpal on it. That's all you really need. If you get liquid coils or accelerated coils, that would be the best. I have another one too that has it on it, but the most important thing to have on here is Vorpal. The Long Walk. Energy Sniper. You get this from the Prophecy Dungeon from the first encounter. You can substitute Overflow for Clown Cartridge if you like to, but Firing Line is going to be your best option. The second slot here. You get bonus precision damage when you're near 2 or more allies. Most important thing in the energy slot, again, in my personal opinion, is these energy grenade launchers with their blinding grenades. It is so broken and will literally change the way you play PvE. It makes it so easy. You get auto loading on this thing. After you shoot a shot, you can immediately store it while you're spraying down with another weapon. It'll auto reload for you. On top of that, if you want to go for Disruption Break, you totally can. When you match the enemy shield, in this case Void, if you break a Void shield with this weapon, whatever kinetic that you switch to, it'll do bonus damage to that enemy for a short period of time. Really, really, really solid roll. I would just recommend having these two things on it. It has like a brother, which is called the Empty Vessel, which you get from strikes. I'll show you here in a second. The Empty Vessel, you get this one from just strike completions. You can get a similar roll, auto-loading blinding. If you want to go for solar and you prefer doing strikes, that's totally your call. Danger Zone increases the blast radius when surrounded by combatants, so you can get that the blinding range a little bit larger, not too important. You really get two options when it comes to heavy weapons. It's either really long range or you're right up in the enemy's face. Since Linear Fusion's got a buff, a lot of people have been using Threaded Needle this season, which you can still get from the season of chosen engrams from the Umbral engram table. Highly, highly, highly recommend just getting Vorpal on it. Most important thing that you can get on the weapon. Clown Cartridge will increase your magazine size, really good to have. And then again, if you can get liquid or accelerated coils, those are your two best options for this slot. Whisper of the Worm. This one, man, I don't feel good about promoting this one for those who don't have it. I feel kind of bad because you can't get the Catalyst until Witch Queen drops, which really sucks. You can still get the weapon, which is finally getting buffed after almost 2 years, which is good. They're going to make it so that if you hit 3 headshots, you're going to get 2 shots drawn from your reserves to your mag and 1 pulled from thin air. Your entire magazine gets refilled. Whisper and Darcy used to be the king of heavy snipers because Whisper was the sustained damage sniper and Darcy was the burst damage. Darcy's also getting a fat buff. I would recommend having both if you can, but if I had to choose between the two, get Whisper. As far as swords go, the only 2 swords that you'll ever need, Lament. This is a quest from Beyond Light. If you don't have it, you can look up a guide on that. There's about 1 billion of them. Lament is a really, really, really good sword. It's good for Warlock skating movement as well, if that's something that you care about. On the legendary side of things, the Falling Guillotine, best in class, blows everything else out of the water as far as consistency goes and just being really good in general. The best roll you can get on this is Surrounded or Whirlwind. I choose to use Whirlwind personally. Relentless Strikes, Swordmaster's Guard, and Jagged Edge. That's the absolute best roll that you can get. Okay, so this does drop from the Whirlpool. I thought it was still in the engrams, but it'll drop from pretty much any activity. You'll probably see this across any world drops. 1000 Voices, always been very consistent. A very consistent weapon to have. You get this from completing the Last Wish raid. It's a heavy fusion rifle that you shoot it and it causes a bajillion explosions. Really good for damage, can be really good for ad clear, and you might blow yourself up a few times if you've never used it before. It's all initiation. Anarchy. This thing used to be the king of passive damage. They finally nerfed the ammo on it, but I still think this will be a really good option since they're adding things like Legendary Campaign to Witch Queen, in which cases where you have to play a little bit more passive. I think things like Anarchy with, here, I'll just put it on for you. This would be like a go-to loadout for me for like Witch Queen Legendary Campaign if I was just gonna go in with what I had rather than relying on any new things that I get right away. Night Watch, you get a nice little ranged weapon, unlimited ammo, explosive payload, no damage drop off, blinding grenades. Blind everything, spray it down with scout rifles, and put anarchy shots on the bigger stuff. It does passive damage. You stick enemies and then you can just start primarying down everything else. You don't have to worry about the damage because it'll be doing it and you don't have to sit there with your anarchy output. As far as ammo conservation goes for this weapon, I think it is particularly best to use it for higher rank enemies rather than ad clear, just because of what the ammo situation is with it right now. A personal favorite, man, I have a lot of memories with this thing, the tractor cannon. Tractor cannon applies debuffs to enemies as well as pushes them away and does damage all in itself. Tractor cannon, it's got a good amount of ammo. The catalyst gives you a larger magazine size. It will stagger a good amount of enemies too. So if you're up in their face and you need to stagger them before they slap the shit out of you, tractor cannon can slap them back. I tried to be kind of diverse as far as like the really important stuff goes. A rocket launcher. The Royal Entry is supposedly the best rocket launcher that you can use. Lasting impression is really solid because it does a huge amount of damage after you stick. It's kind of like a timed explosive that blows up and just auto loading, really good. Again, if you holster it after you shoot it, it'll auto reload for you. It's best to have alloy casing or impact casing are your best two that you can get. There are a lot of other rocket launchers in which you can get rolls like this too, so don't feel like you have to use this one necessarily, but this comes from Strikes. This is a Vanguard weapon. There are a lot of other weapons that could possibly be good for Witch Queen, and I'll make an entirely separate video on that. If you want to see that, make sure you sub if you haven't already. These are some of the most important things that I would recommend that you try out, and bring into Witch Queen as far as ease of access goes, and just the weapons being really good in general. Vito, sorry for making you edit this in. One thing I forgot to add, the Aquilo sniper. This is a burst damage sniper. 4 times the charm, high impact reserves. If you get triple tap here, that's fine too, honestly. But I would highly recommend going for this if you can. You want to have tactical mag or extended mag so you can get that 7-round magazine. That way you get, like, as long as you're hitting your crits, you get a lot of extra shots. The only 2 mods that you really need for Witch Queen are Taking Charge and Protective Light. You get Taking Charge by default, so you don't have to go out of your way to buy that. Protective Light. This thing will save you 10 times over. Ada sells this every so often. It's a daily rotation, so usually you have a limited time to buy it. I always post on like Twitter and TikTok and all that stuff when there are days where she is selling this. It's very infrequent. When you get down to red bar and you're charged with light, you literally become a tank with eating damage. It is the most broken mod in PvE in the game. If there's any 2 mods, the simplest combo, it's these 2. It will save you 10 times over. There are a lot of other good mods that are complementary to specific builds with certain weapons that you can put on pieces of armor. I run this 24/7 on PvE. Always. I haven't taken it off for literally as long as it's been in the game. As far as stats go for your armor, the only thing you really need is 100 recovery. Anything else is a plus, but the recovery is always the most important thing of PvE. So as far as Witch Queen prep goes, for keeping it basic and consistent, focus on the things I just mentioned. You're gonna probably hear other people telling you to get other things as well. That's fine. There may be other things that are cool to add to your build, but those are the most crucial things that will carry your builds in Witch Queen. If you're trying to be prepped for things like the day 1 raid, smoking the legendary campaign at launch, dungeon release, or whatever, I promise the things that I just mentioned will be the most consistent way to carry you to victory. I will continue to make other vids, like I said, with the weapons stuff, or if there's anything else to mention with the 30th anniversary stuff from that to get before Witch Queen. I might make some updates, but hopefully that was helpful for you guys. If it was, you know what to do. I don't really have to explain that. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully we'll catch you in the Twitch live stream.